Hi everyone. I wanted to take a few minutes to go over some key concepts from the chapters that you were assigned to read, and you'll notice that each of the chapters discusses in detail various disabilities all within the 13 disability categories of IDEA. So I wanted to just highlight what you should be paying close attention to. In the various chapters, now you're going to read chapters 6 through 11. So chapter 6 discusses teaching students with learning disabilities and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is ADHD. Chapter 7 discusses teaching students with communication disorders. Chapter 8 goes over students with emotional and behavioral disorders, or EBD. Chapter 9 is autism spectrum disorders, or pervasive developmental disorders. It's now called ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder. All of the different autism-related disorders are within that spectrum. Chapter 10 is teaching students with intellectual and developmental disabilities, so ID or DD. And Chapter 11 is teaching students with lower incidence disabilities, and these are disabilities that we see less of. So in comparison to learning disabilities, where we see a larger prevalence, the lower incidence disabilities would be like the multiple disabilities. So these are the chapters that you're assigned for this week, these 2 weeks. And I wanted you to pay close attention to the prevalence, because this is going to help you understand. It could be an indication of how many of these cases you might encounter when you're teaching in an inclusive environment. Also pay attention to the characteristics. How will this disability manifest itself in the classroom, outside the classroom? Learn more about what this student is going through. How will this disability impact the classroom environment, the child's learning? How will it impact education as a whole? You want to understand how the disability may impede learning, so you can try to resolve that issue through your teaching practices. Also, what are some instructional strategies that you might want to use with students who have this disability? And what are best practices that promote learning when teaching students with the various disabilities? So just make sure to pay close attention to those areas, because you're going to need to know that about one of the disabilities for our next assignment. So our next assignment is to create an information booklet or a web page where you are considered an expert on one of the disabilities which you can select. So you're going to describe in detail these things right here. First, you're going to describe the causes. What causes this disability to happen? Are they born with it? Does this happen in infancy? Are the causes unknown? So you're going to want to look within your text, and you can go to outside sources to get some information on the causes. What are the characteristics? Like I said before, how does this disability manifest itself? Can you tell that a child has the disability just from observing them? Or do you need to see, certain work samples? How does the child exhibit the characteristics of the disability? Number 3, diagnosis. How is this diagnosed? How many different assessments or evaluations need to be conducted, and what is the diagnosis process? Number 4, what are the implications? How does this affect the child's learning? How does it affect their behavior in a classroom? What are some of the things that you can do to help resolve these different implications? What accommodations can you provide to help the student reach their maximum success? And lastly, what are some advocacy or support groups for this disability? Now, all of these disabilities are very widely published about, and you're going to be able to find several outside advocacy or support groups concerning these disabilities. And all of this is due September 20th by 11:59. And lastly, the discussion. So now that you know all of these various disabilities and you've had a good introduction to them, which disability do you think would be the most challenging for you to work with in the classroom? And what steps do you think that you can take to be more prepared for working with a child with this disability. Also due September 20th by 11:59. And of course, the discussion, I want you to respond to a peer with that very thorough and thoughtful and constructive response, not just agreeing or disagreeing, but make sure that you have some substance in your response. Um, Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please do contact me via Blackboard message, or I'm happy to meet with any of you if you're available on campus. Take care.